Yo, what's up YouTube? How you guys doing today? So we're reacting to a video by Wicked Binge. They do a lot of different videos on like things that kind of went over our head as kids with different cartoons. And some of these you might actually be familiar with because of the internet. I've definitely seen a few of these brought back up here on Twitter in more recent years. But some of this stuff I completely forgot about. And some of it was kind of crazy, like to watch back stuff you watched when you were a kid and kind of get little flashbacks of the different shows and what you remember and what you don't remember, and how much some stuff that even you may remember just kind of was like right over your head, just had no idea. But this is a really good video. He makes good videos, so I'm gonna leave his channel in the description below. So go ahead and check him out. But this is my reaction to 90s Nicktoon adult jokes. All right, so I hope you guys enjoy. If you do, please leave me a like, subscribe to the video if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time. But all right, 90s, I'm gonna react to this video. 90s Nicktoon adult jokes, cleanest to dirtiest. Oh boy. All right.
How dare you! Not just cartoons, they're Nicktoons. And these aren't your average everyday jokes. These are advanced jokes. There's no shortage of classic Nicktoon jokes that went right over our heads growing up, but which ones were the most over the line? I'm Keefe Nosy with Wicked Binge, and these are 90s Nicktoon adult jokes, cleanest to dirtiest. For this video, we'll be going through each show based on chronological release and ranking each adult joke from most innocent to dirtiest within each individual one. Oh, and as far as SpongeBob goes, we'll only be including season 1, since it's the only season that aired in the 90s. With that said, let's start with the cartoon that kicked things off, Rugrats. The gay blocks. Really a silly blink and you miss it gag. If you pause this one frame of Angelica near some Tumblr blocks, you'll see that they clearly spell out the word gay. We're not here to judge the blocks, of course, we just have to mention there's no way this was an accident, considering this show was hand-drawn. Cradle Attraction. In the episode Cradle Attraction, Chucky gets a girlfriend who treats him pretty darn poorly. This includes, but isn't limited to, cheating on him by poking another boy. This joke is also relatively innocent as far as this list goes, but considering the Fatal Attraction spoof in the episode's title, it still has to count as a little suggestive. Angelica's dress-up time. When Angelica decides to start acting like a baby to avoid getting older, the other babies rejoice that she won't be able to boss them around anymore, steal their toys, or, according to Chucky,
they just wear those frilly patties.
The other babies' shock at that implies that apparently this was a Chucky exclusive ordeal, implying that for some reason Angelica liked forcing him and only him to cross-dress.
I don't want to talk about it.
Enjoy therapy later in life, Chucky. Chucky's bopping his what? In Give and Take, Chucky's absolutely obsessed with Tommy's new punching bag clown toy, Boppo. It gets to the point where he prefers bopping his Boppo all day instead of hanging out with his friends. To the adult brain, it doesn't take long to realize what Phil and Lil mean when they comment on how it's unhealthy for a young boy to spend all day alone in his room whacking a cylindrical object.
A kid his age should be playing with his friends, not alone in a room bopping his Boppo.
Paging Dr. Kevorkian. In the episode Home Movies, Grandpa Boris grows incredibly bored of Stu's family trip video and looks for any excuse he can find to get out of it. One such excuse happens to be a call to someone called
Yo, what's up, T? I didn't think anybody was on here. I was probably going to hop on multiplayer, but if you're playing, I can get on Apex after this video.
For those unaware, Dr. Kevorkian was a controversial figure in the medical world for his practices of providing terminally ill patients with physician-assisted suicide. Must have been one boring slideshow. Tommy needs a drink.
Jesus.
When Dee Dee...
Yeah, I was going to do COD just because it's usually the easiest to play whenever I'm on here by myself. I'm bored and shit. But if you're on, I'll definitely get on Apex. I was going to get on Apex today anyway. I was just going to do that to kill some time. Let me load that shit up real quick. I whisper you the leaks for tomorrow's update. Oh, word? Okay. Play a couple multis in Apex. Alright, I just figured, like, if I ever do actually play COD, I need some guns, you know? So I got the guns that are good, but they're, they're not ranked up in the slightest. Hopefully my BattleNet works. I had to delete my Steam and my BattleNet to move them to my other driver. And I fixed my Steam. After you guys had got off, I got it fixed. But I have not tried BattleNet yet. We'll have to see how that goes.
and Stu try to wean Tommy off of his bottle, transitioning him to drinking from cups. It turns out to be a little too early. The poor kid was dying for a drink, constantly begging the other babies for their bottles and showing pretty great frustration. The baby needs a drink, darn it! This is a pretty clear allusion to alcoholism. Born under Venus. In the Rugrats movie, Dee Dee's pregnant, so her friends throw a baby shower for her. While everyone else seems convinced that the baby will be a girl, Dee Dee's sister-in-law, Charlotte, suggests it'll be a boy.
You know what they say. Born under Venus, look for a...
Oh, darn, she was interrupted by a phone call, so I guess we'll never know what she was going to say there. Howard's male bonding trip. In one episode, Stu laments that Howard is busy on his male bonding
Look at that
trip.
tuxedo.
You know, male bonding. Oh yeah, you know what he's talking about. Take down that Maplethorpe. Now, say what you will about Charlotte, she's got interesting taste in art. On one occasion, she speaks to her assistant Jonathan, asking him to take down the Maplethorpe in exchange for a Norman Rockwell painting.
Conservative, so take down the Maplethorpe and put up that hideous Norman Rockwell painting.
The reason being that her next client is very conservative. Considering that Robert Mapplethorpe is well known for his homoerotic photographs and Rockwell for his patriotic Four Freedoms paintings, it's not too hard for anyone with a lick of political knowledge to know what her line of thinking was here. Consider yourself lucky.
It's a lot of Rugrats.
This game, you're not ready for it.
During the Rugrats movie's musical number, This World Is New to Me, there's
Also,
a baby
they all
who laments
pee, right?
having their umbilical cord cut off. But it's pretty hard to feel worse for anyone than the boy who replies, saying to,
Oh, consider yourself lucky.
looks like he went through something a little more painful. Something hard and thin. When Tommy gets his fingers stuck in a Chinese finger trap, he realizes he needs to find something hard and thin to break it. Promptly after this, he reaches into his pants, but thankfully he only pulls out a screwdriver. It's pretty obvious what the writers were thinking here, but the real question is, why on earth does Tommy have a screwdriver in his diaper at all times? Where do you even get it from? Reptar's nudes. We don't recommend Googling Reptar's nudes. We're just referring to the episode Reptar's Revenge, where the
What
babies
the
head
hell
to an
is
amusement
going
park
on?
to meet their childhood hero Reptar, who has an interesting pinup on his trailer door. What's particularly odd about this one is that very little effort was made to hide what's clearly meant to be a pinup of a nude woman. If it weren't for this
Wow.
boss dude's Mr. Krabs-esque build, it'd be right there in the open. Put that thing away, Reptar. There are like children here.
I told you shouldn't have messed with the Reptar.
Lonely space vixens. Finally, we put the Rugrats to bed with one last joke from Grandpa Lou. Being the absolute Chad that he is, he was nice enough to rent some Reptar movies for Tommy and Chucky to enjoy together. He had every right, then, to treat himself to his favorite film.
Lonely space vixen.
This is pretty clearly some type of VHS lesbian porno, affirmed by his mention that it's for after the babies go to bed. We're not here to judge Grandpa's taste in movies, but maybe you could have refrained from showing them your find, Lou. Okay, let's move on to another classic Nicktoon, Doug. Roger's overdue
I love
talk.
Doug.
For one thing, school bully Roger once failed to realize his cat was pregnant. He grows frustrated and asks his mother and the nurse,
Well, how was I supposed to know?
to which the former replies that they're overdue for a very important talk. Not sure why exactly a pregnant cat had to result in the sex talk, but okay, take the opportunity, I guess, sure. Not
Even the parents were green,
Doug
I forgot.
himself isn't without a few suggestive moments, though. In one episode, while playing a video game, he has one of his many bouts of imagination adventures. In this one, he describes his current mission as one involving wiping out 12 or 13 nut suckers.
Mop up 12 or 13 nutsuckers, boom boom boom.
Not exactly the phrase
Excuse
you'd
me?
expect a mild-mannered kid like Doug to use, huh? Well, just goes to show you never know what the quiet kids are thinking or doing. Doug loves... What? That's not the only reference to nut sucking in this series, oddly enough. Just look at this one screenshot with the rather
Yo!
interesting subliminal message. I mean, who doesn't, Doug? But keep
Hey,
something to
yo.
yourself. His exploding lava. Man, are all of these about Doug being ridiculously thirsty? It's no secret that Doug has the hots for his friend Patty Mayonnaise. But when she walks up to him at a science fair, his volcano starts exploding. God, that just sounds weird. To make it even weirder, Doug asserts that his volcano keeps spraying lava because he loves her. Downright horrendous. Downright despicable, even. Keep your baking
I
soda
don't
in your
remember
volcano,
that at
Doug.
all.
The reason the lava keeps shooting up into the air is because I love you.
All right, the time has come. Let's talk about the Ren and Stimpy show.
Oh
Ren
my
and Stimpy's
God.
sexualities. Let's start off with the interesting nature of Ren and Stimpy's relationship. While it's never been explicitly confirmed, it is heavily suggested that Ren and Stimpy are a homosexual couple. A topic which would have been a little taboo in a kid's
Hey,
cartoon back
yo.
in the 90s. The two sleep in the same bed, among other innuendos throughout the series, but it's never that much more flamboyant than SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship. The unusual amount of side references. In one episode, Ren's retirement, Ren is told that he's old and begins planning for his death.
Aren't you gonna eat your cake? Grandpa.
The episode throws in Grim Reaper imagery, war flashbacks, PTSD, and at one point he asks Stimpy point blank to end things by shooting him in the brain. Pretty dark, right? Ren tries to kill Stimpy. Well, Ren isn't the only person Ren occasionally wants to kill. He's always treating Stimpy with abuse and violence for his stupidity, or just because he feels like it sometimes. In the episode Stimpy's Fan Club, Ren actually tries to kill Stimpy in his sleep out of jealousy of him receiving more fan mail than him. Maybe that's why you didn't receive much fan mail, Ren? It's just a thought.
What a joke.
Threatening
That
Sven
show was
and
so
Stimpy.
creepy.
If you thought Ren wasn't scary enough, in the episode Sven Hook, he delivers a threatening monologue to Stimpy and his cousin Sven, who destroyed Ren's home and most of his prized possessions. His anger was certainly understandable, but maybe this extremely specific description of what he planned to do to them was a little unnecessary.
I'm gonna tear your arms out of the socket.
Body horror and violence. When it comes to infamous Ren and Stimpy facets, there's no doubt that the absolutely revolting sense of humor the series has is its biggest culprit. Whether you love or hate the series, it's hard not to ask just how exactly this was ever allowed to be a children's cartoon when you take into account some of the genuinely horrifying stuff it shows. For one example, there's a scene in Ren's Toothache where Stimpy tells him the magical tale of the nerve-ending fairy, resulting in Ren pulling nerve endings from his toothless gums to put under his pillow so the nerve-ending fairy will reward him with gifts.
Crazy stuff.
Man's Best Friend.
Jeez.
There's one episode that stands out even among this show's usual violent nature. In Man's Best Friend, Ren and Stimpy are adopted by a drill sergeant who trains them to become guard animals, abusing them quite terribly along the way. He rewards them with cigars, for one thing, and when Ren is given the chance to beat his owner senseless with a wooden paddle, he takes it and runs with it, much to the horror of Stimpy and the audience. In one scene, their owner's eyeballs fall out of his socket from the force of the beating. There's a reason this show's DVDs have an explicit content warning. Okay, the next show we get to talk about is Rocko's Modern Life. The
Rocko.
all-Scottish show.
I love Rocko's Modern
Whoa,
Life.
I just got the last buff points I needed for a new keyboard.
As if the title of an episode called Who Gives a Buck weren't raunchy enough, a television program called The All-Scottish Show can be seen, with the words stacked on top of each other that spell ass. You know how we mentioned a few scenes where animators snuck things in just for kicks and giggles, like the gay blocks and Rugrats? Yeah, this show does it all the time. The Jackhammer Festival. Take, for instance, the
what?
sensational Jackhammer Festival. This place is good, clean fun for Jackhammer fans of all ages. And
The
if you're the guy who
Jack-O-Matic
prefers
2000.
dirty fun, there's a sign that reads, Jack all you want.
Try that one.
Not sure how the jackhammer is
Oh,
involved in that
that's
attraction,
great.
but I also don't want to know, so let's just count it as a blessing. Colorophobia. The episode Closet Clown revolves around grouchy Ed Bighead and his prejudice towards clowns,
Bighead.
which turns out to be a projection as he himself enjoys being a clown. If the title ain't enough of a hint, the episode is a metaphor for coming out in general, and for a typically bitter character like Ed, it's actually pretty wholesome seeing him start to accept himself, and for everyone around him to do the same.
Great clown.
If only they'd let Rocco enjoy his rainbows. The Choky Chicken. Before there was the Krusty Krab, there was Rocco and Heifer's favorite restaurant, the Choky Chicken. There's nothing that brings quite the type of pleasure and
I didn't even
satisfaction a
notice
flavor favorite freshly cooked restaurant-style chicken does. But the phrase choke the chicken refers to another type of pleasure, one that doesn't require money, and definitely shouldn't be indulged at a restaurant.
They fit just like the ones at home.
The Shaved Kittens. Like we said, we really can't
What?
understate how many weirdly sexual euphemisms there are in this series. In one episode, Rocco and company are seen watching a movie called Night of the Shaved Kittens. Maybe we'd be able to overlook this if the show as a whole wasn't just full of blatant innuendos, but given what we know, there's just no doubt they knew what they were doing here. The Peeping Gopher. Everybody, hide your fairy godparents. In one of the very first episodes of the series, a gopher is discovered using binoculars, spying on a group of fairies before they're sucked up by the Suck-O-Matic vacuum cleaner, available now,
Must buy Suck-O-Matic.
along with the flowers covering the dirty culprit. Looks like beaver dams aren't the only place this guy's trying to build wood up, am I right? Exposed. Really, really big man. Okay, so this guy's name is really, really big man. One of his powers is the nipples of the future. And in one episode, Rocco says,
Forgot about
Thanks,
that.
big man. We've all been touched by your bigness.
you know what? I actually don't think this one needs any more explanation. The JFK assassination.
Whoa.
No, you didn't read that wrong. In one episode, Heifer and Rocco are nonchalantly watching TV when an announcer can be heard panicking over gunshots at the official motorcade in Washington, D.C. Even more disturbingly, Heifer seems completely unbothered.
The official motorcade is just coming around the corner now, and oh my god, there's a burst of gunfire.
It's the final game.
Yo,
Series 2 out.
you just changed the channel.
Play Snail magazine. In another early episode, a slug working at the carnival is seen relaxing, reading on the job. If you look closely, you'll notice
What
he's
the
reading
hell?
Play Slug, an obvious
With
spoof
big
on Playboy.
titties.
Pretty slimy thing to do on the job, huh? Gladys the hippo. First appearing in the episode Sand in Your Navel, Gladys is a
Sand
recurring
what?
gag character whose curves Rocco often finds himself bumping into, never without her catchphrase, "How dare you!" They at least become friends much later on, but while this one was pretty straightforward, it still counts as a relatively adult joke. Mrs. Bighead's needs. It's a common trend in the series for Mrs. Bev Bighead to hit on other men when her husband isn't fulfilling her needs. But it never got more on the nose than in the episode Leapfrogs, in which Bev has Rocco come over to help around the house, trying to seduce him all the while, even attempting to drug him at one point. The Tunnel of Love. What's cuter than a ride on the Tunnel of Love? It's one of the most iconic carnival rides out there, after all. Just look at this couple. They had so much fun on the ride they came out with several kids. Isn't that sweet?
No
Interesting
way.
choice of berries. As pleasant of a guy as Rocco is, he has some rotten luck sometimes. Once in the episode Hut Sut Raw, a deleted scene shows Rocco picking berries from a bush, but there happens to be a bear behind it whose testicles happen to look exactly like the berries. You know, maybe Rocco's actually not the unlucky one here. Dr. Bendova. Look, the name speaks for
Dr.
itself.
what?
It wouldn't be this high if it weren't for his interesting examination of Rocco's eye sockets,
Let me run some more tests to find the exact problem.
describing them as firm and youthful, then asking him to cough the same way a doctor would during a physical. We're gonna really hope he's just a bit dizzy from the eye grabbing when he walks out. Rocco's phone operator job. During his search for a new
Oh, he
job,
was a
Rocco
phone
comes
sex
across a listing
operator.
for a phone operator. Everything seems perfectly normal until it's revealed that his script is
Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby.
Remember, be hot
that
and
long enough to
naughty.
convince you that this is a more adult
And
phone line. His first caller is Mrs. Bighead. The No-Tell Motel. In the episode Road Rash, Rocco and Heifer find themselves staying at a... If that...
Hold on. Damn it.
that weren't enough to convince you that this is a more
Yeah, look, be hot, be naughty, be courteous. That's
adult
insane.
phone line. His first caller is Mrs. Bighead. The No-Tell Motel. In the episode
The
Road
what?
Rash, Rocco and Heifer find themselves staying at a cheap motel called the No-Tell Motel. After a
With Wawa
premature
beds.
departure, the two are offered a room, and the doorman is surprised when Rocco says they'll be going all night.
All night?
As if two children's cartoon characters checking into a sex hotel wasn't weird enough. Once they're in bed, you can hear thumping, followed by Heifer saying the name of a girl named Sheila. So, Rocco and Heifer have canonically done it? That's a fact I learned today. Maybe one of the more forgotten Nicktoons
is
from
wild.
the 90s, and by that I mean definitely.
Oh, IR
Let's quickly dive
monsters.
into real monsters.
Real
Very
monsters,
quickly, as we
damn
only
it.
have one joke. Sex Ed. In a season 1 episode, Attack of the Blobs, there appears to be a lesson given on sex education and reproduction between monsters. This results in Ickis trying out what he'd learned to the best of his knowledge, which resulted in the horror of an innocent bystander who witnessed whatever Ickis thought he was doing. Probably one of the best cartoons to come out in the 90s. Hey Arnold is known pretty well for its more mature themes and plot lines. Miriam Pataki's smoothie problem. Personally, I love smoothies. They're delicious, healthy, a great way to get your serving of fruit in. Miriam, Helga's mother, loves them too, but maybe a little too much, given that she's constantly slurring her words
What's happening?
and was once implied to have had a DUI.
Remember, you're starting your community service job down at the animal shelter today.
Helga's girlhood. Helga's obsessive crush on Arnold is the core of her character and a major part of Arnold's as well. In one episode, she reads an interesting poem, one line from which claims that he makes her girlhood tremble.
Arnold, you make my girlhood tremble.
Try my sausage. Oh, were those innuendos not direct enough for you? No worries, have another visual gag. Gee, Grandpa Phil,
Try
I
my
think we'll have to pass
sausage.
on that one. Also, which one? Sure, everyone talks about Arnold's football head, but this dude's got a massive schlong shoved into his skull all the time, and nobody bats an eye. We're not letting you get away with it, Phil. Or should we call you Foul? Phil's story. Man, we just can't get away from this guy, huh? Grandpa Phil once told Arnold and Gerald a story about his younger years, which almost led to the story of him hooking up with a beautiful French woman.
Just when I was about to nod off, there came a knock on the barn door. It was the oldest daughter, Monique. She was bathed in moonlight.
Thankfully, Gerald's dad was there to reel him in.
She wore. She has made me so scared and lonely.
Maybe you should skip on down to the next part of the story.
Phil's time at Woodstock. Okay, really, this is the last time we mentioned Grandpa Phil. In one episode, he claims that his poor memory might just be due to his visit to Woodstock.
And you've still got plenty of brain cells.
No, not since Woodstock.
You can do it, Grandpa.
Anyone who knows about those 60s music festivals knows about the form of recreational drug usage that may have been enjoyed there. Arnold, you madman! Doug isn't the only Nicktoons kid who was down bad, to an extent. The difference is that for Arnold's case, he's the one everyone wants to get with. In one episode, 2 girls ask to hang out with Arnold, stating that they hope he doesn't mind making it a threesome.
If Arnold doesn't mind making it a threesome...
Judging by the blush on his face, it's safe to say he definitely doesn't. Thanksgiving dinner. Does anything look odd about this screenshot? Don't worry, it's just a simple scene from a Thanksgiving dinner scene, but honestly, Joy's face says that the turkey isn't the only thing getting carved out at dinner tonight. This man leaves no leftovers. He should, however, leave his neighborhood with less trauma by closing his curtains. Now we get to arguably the worst Nicktoon of the 90s, Cat Dog. Some confusing anatomical implications. The first question that comes to mind for this show is exactly how does Cat Dog work? For one thing, they can apparently crawl out of each other. They also spend a lot of time in each other's mouths. One time walked in on by Winslow, who understandably left and never mentioned it again. There's also the fact that nobody, not even the show's creator, knows how they use the restroom, and at this point, I'm not sure we want to know. Lube. Okay, that's an ominous title, but there's, for some reason, a character in Cat Dog named Lube. He is one of the greasers, so he's likely named as a connection to slicked back hair and all that, rather than an innuendo. But we're not gonna sit here and act like an episode titled All You Need Is Lube isn't weird. Side note, Cat Dog Lube has to be one of the weirdest things I've ever Googled.
That's crazy!
Okay, let's wrap things up with SpongeBob SquarePants Season 1, SpongeBob's Underwear. In the episode Pickles, Mr. Krabs pays SpongeBob a mental health visit out of concern for him and his profits. He finds SpongeBob's house a wreck and SpongeBob himself wearing underwear on his head. Given his nose's unique shape, it forms quite the interesting protrusion. At least we know he's very happy to see Mr. Krabs. Being insertive. Now we move on to Plankton's lessons on being assertive.
No, assertive, not insertive.
The first practical point of training here is SpongeBob getting a big fish to stop sitting on him, but mishearing the word as insertive, SpongeBob puts his finger in the fish's pocket with a little beep beep. As innocent as SpongeBob is, he didn't mean anything by it, but we're sure the writer's room got a few chuckles there. Patrick's genius revealed. For the grand finale, we go to another word lost in translation.
Where?
This time by Patrick. After he has the idea to cheer Sandy up by throwing a party at the Krusty Krab based on her home of Texas's culture, SpongeBob tells him that his genius is showing. In response, Patrick quickly covers his crotch with a concerned "Where?" Which begs us one final question we'll leave you with. Where exactly is Patrick's penis, if he himself doesn't know?
Oh my god.
And we're back with March Sadness.
That was a lot more in depth than I thought it was going to be. Sheesh. So, it's funny, I got flashbacks watching some of that shit. Definitely brought up some old memories.